Okay, shalom to everyone. And as I said before, I don't know how much and how far we can go with the interview, but I think this is one of the most incredible weeks that we've had in the last 2 years since we started Zooms. And actually, because I came to Israel in 1968, this is one of the most incredible weeks since 1968 with the fall of the Bashar Assad regime. Uh, 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 I could talk just an hour on Bashar Assad and Hafiz al-Assad and the Ba'ath Party, and it's gone. It's all gone. Now we're talking about a fundamentalist Sunni terrorist takeover of Syria. Um, uh, Israel in 1974 withdrew from parts of Syria based on a what's it called? Disengagement plan of Henry Kissinger. I don't know if you're all old enough to remember Henry Kissinger,
Yeah, I
but
remember.
it was part of the ending of the Yom Kippur War that Israel had advanced far into Syria on the way to Damascus, and Kissinger brokered this disengagement, which forced Israel to go back. So now that the Bashar al-Assad regime collapsed, there's no Bashar al-Assad regime, Israel has taken advantage of this to go back to the positions prior to the 1994 disengagement. It's a miracle. We took the peak of the Mount Hermon. I don't know exactly where we are in the south of Syria, but from what I understand, we are, I'm guessing now, if you know the map of Syria and you look at the south of Syria,
Shoot.
Dara is a Sunni city.
Avi, you froze. Avi, you froze for a minute. You froze right after you said the map of Syria.
Okay.
You don't know where we are in the map of Syria. That's what you said. Oh, you lost him. Well, I lost him again.
Yep. Oh, bummer.
Hello?
Hello.
Avi, why don't you try turning your video off if you can hear us?
Can you hear us?
I'm going to try rejoining, I guess. Okay, we'll give it a minute.
Okay. Okay, shall we dance?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. So as I was saying before, when you look at the map of the south of Syria, you see just to the east of the Golan Heights, where the Israeli army is, you see Quneitra, which we had to hand over to Syria as part of this disengagement agreement in 1974, the Kissinger disengagement agreement. If you go more to the east, not too far, these are not big distances. You have a Sunni Muslim city by the name of Daraa. Daraa was also was Sunni. It was persecuted by the Bashar al-Assad regime. I don't know if you remember, but there was a hospital right on the border with the Golan Heights of Israel. and Israeli doctors were taking care of Sunni Muslim patients who were coming for aid, medical aid. If you remember, Jody Anderson and her husband Keith, Pastor Keith, I took them to the border. And I mean, I wanted to go over the border into Syria too, but the Israeli military looked at me like they were going to shoot me. But Jody Anderson and Keith Anderson went over and they worked. And they told me incredible things. There are actually very good relationships now between the Israeli army and the Sunni Muslims of Daraa and that area just to the east of the Golan Heights. So Israel has moved in. The next stop going east is Suwaida, and we spoke about Suwaida. Suwaida is the Druze area. The Druze were having problems with the Iranians and the Bashar al-Assad regime. I don't know if we are in Suwaida or not. I think we are, but nobody's talking about it. Suwaida wants to break away from Syria, and they want to join their Druze brethren in the Golan Heights, in Israel, and in Lebanon. So we may be seeing some major changes in the borders of Israel and Syria. I'm very emotional about it because I love the Druze and I love the Muslims who came to our hospital, and people who were in very serious condition, broken legs, broken arms, were taken for treatment to Nahariya, to the Israeli hospital there. The terrorists who have been backed by the Turks and have come down from Idlib have taken Aleppo and then Hama and Homs. Very, very interesting, because the Turks are saying that Idlib and Aleppo should not be part of Syria anymore. They should be now part of Turkey, because they were part of Turkey all the way up to the breakaway period after World War I. So we're going to be seeing changes in the border of Syria. We don't yet know who's going to be in control of what. And finally, the Kurds. The Kurds are in the northeast of Syria, and by all means, they want to break away, and they want to form an independent Kurdish state, which, of course, Israel would be in total agreement with. The problem with that is this would bring closer a war with Turkey, because the southeastern part of Turkey is Kurdish. They want to break away. You have to understand, these maps that were drawn up after World War I have nothing to do with reality. The maps were drawn up by the British and the French foreign ministries, and all of a sudden we're seeing a gelling of the different ethnic groups that are cut by artificial borders. They want to join their own fellow people. You know, Palestinians are talking about a Palestinian state, and they're about 6-7 million people. The Kurds are 40 million between Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. So we have to watch very carefully what is happening now with these terrorists who are coming down. They're Arabs. They're not Kurds. They're not, but they're coming down with the backing of the Turkish military. If you're talking about Armageddon, Ezekiel 38, you have these Turks coming down with the Arabs. I mean, they're not coming down with, but these Islamic Sunni terrorists coming down from Turkey, backed by the Turks, could portend very serious problems for Israel. Therefore, Israel has taken the advantage to move in while everything is completely, how shall I say? I'm having a senior moment. Everything is so chaotic. The Israeli Air Force took out 29 MiG-29 fighters. Israel has taken out all of the defensive capabilities of the Syrian Air Force. Israel is blowing up chemical weapons storage areas. We don't want the chemical weapons to fall into the hands of these Islamic terrorists. So Israel is doing a job that we have been dreaming to do for decades. And all of a sudden, Syria is not there anymore. There's no army, really. You have terrorists. And the Israeli government has said, let them have Kalashnikov machine guns, but we're not going to let them have artillery, aircraft, tanks, anything that could threaten Israel strategically will have to be stopped. And as I said before, we are moving east. For those who are looking at Bible prophecy, we are moving in the direction of the Euphrates River. And if we make an agreement with the Kurds, guess who's going to be our neighbors to the northeast on the Euphrates River? It'll be the Kurds. So I think it's a remarkable breakthrough. It is really Bible fulfillment, where Israel's borders are going to move northeast, and east. And another good thing is, hopefully, that we will be better able to protect Jordan from falling into the hands of these ISIS terrorists. And there should be no doubt, al-Julani, the leader of this revolution backed by the Turks, is an ISIS terrorist. He has switched from the Arabic garb to Western blazers. He's shortened his beard a little bit, but under orders from the Turks, I imagine. But this is, on the one hand, it's a very great success for the Turks, and on the other hand, it's a great success for Israel. So we are now up on Mount Hermon in the Syrian position, which is higher than our position. We basically can see most of Syria now from that mountaintop. The Hezbollah in Lebanon have become totally silent. They realize that their lifeline to Iran has been cut off. The moment Syria dropped out, there's no more lifeline for the Hezbollah. And Israel, at this point, is enjoying the ceasefire with Hezbollah. Israel is continuing its job with Gaza, grinding down the Hamas. It's now just a question of time, hopefully, before we get at least some of our hostages back. There's a great feeling in Israel with all of these military advances. And, I have to tell you, on the one hand, you could say that Netanyahu is the best prime minister we ever had, which is something I believe. And on the other hand, God is great, because nobody could have ever believed. And I said this in the last 2 years, since the war broke out on the 7th of October, 2023, and things were looking so bad. And we were having to fight on 7 fronts. Well, actually, we're fighting right now on 5 fronts. So Gaza has been neutralized. The plan of Gaza was to suck in all of the neighbors of Israel into a 7-front war to destroy Israel. And, Hezbollah just gave them artillery support. And for that, Hezbollah has paid very, very sincerely, really broken. So Hamas is now being ground down just as Gaza. Syria is gone. We hit Iran. And it's a given here in Israel that Israel, whether it's the last days of the Biden administration, or it's already into the Trump administration, we're going to take out the Iranian nuclear facilities. And hopefully we're going to have somehow a hand in an uprising against the Ayatollah regime in Iran. There's no reason why Iran should not be a democratic state. From what we've been hearing here in Israel, 80% of the Iranian population opposes the Ayatollah regime. So we see a lot of miracles. I don't know if we can say in any other way. I don't know if Netanyahu had this all calculated from day one. But first Gaza, then Hezbollah, then hitting Iran, taking out all their Air Force capabilities, anti-aircraft capabilities. Even the Houthis, they send these little UAVs, which really don't mean anything strategically. The Shiite militias in Syria are gone. The Iraqi militias that are Shiite are now climbing back into their holes again and not attacking. So it's mind-boggling. I don't know if there's any other definition for what is going on now. The only problem really is that Israel lost 800 soldiers.
Hmm.
Israel has become the United States. Israel is doing things the United States doesn't want to do. And as I said before, I expect within, I would say, Netanyahu has this crazy court case against him, which doesn't hold water. He's going to have to do 6 visits to the Supreme Court, 3 each week. So I think not before the next 2 weeks, the Israeli Air Force will probably go in and take out the nuclear facilities in Iran. We have 42 days till Trump, God protect him, until Trump becomes the president. So if we are 14 days away, it means when we're about 4 weeks before he goes in, it could be 3 weeks, 2 weeks. But I believe in January for sure, we will have overthrown the Iranian regime. We have a number of allies that want to help overthrow Iran. I'm just extremely ecstatic. I have not been ecstatic in a long time with what's going on. Things have been improving. Now we just have to see what we can do to overthrow this so-called justice system in Israel, which is controlled by Soviet Bolsheviks who've been in charge of the Supreme Court for the last 100 years. Without any toleration for right-wing or religious judges, conservative judges. As you all know, in the United States, every president has the right to bring in 2 or 3 judges or to replace those that die. But here in Israel, when a judge retires or dies, the only judges that can replace them have to be communist socialists. So, and these people are totally against religious and right-wing people and do not want to share power at all. And you all know from American history, when the British didn't want to share power with the colonialists, there was a revolution, a 9-year revolution called the American Revolutionary War. So it's very exciting. We're living in exciting times. And I personally thank God very much to be alive at this time. I hate to say it, but people say to me, well, why didn't you tell us this? And why didn't you write that and write articles? And I said, I'm totally hooked on the news, watching all the stations, watching for the news, so that I could come back and report to you. But again, I'm going to say something very sinful. My fantasy is to make popcorn and watch TV every day, watch the news. Because it's breaking news. It's so many interesting things that are happening. When I was a young kid in New York, I was always saying to myself, I was born in 1949. Because I was born in 49, I missed World War II. I missed the Korean War. The Vietnam War, I was basically too high on the lottery system to be mobilized by the U.S. military. And even my father said to me, why are you going to Israel? You're going to have to go into the army and peel potatoes. And here in America, you don't have to go to the army. I said, no, I have to go to Israel. I have to be in the army. And I was saying to myself, as Patton said in the movie, this is my chance to be part of history. And so I'm happy to be here. And even my son is in the army now. So also, by the way, my son and his wife, we have many tour groups registered and coming. So Lipkin Tours is hopefully going to bounce back. But meanwhile, my son is in uniform. And and my grandson got married on what day? I don't remember, on December 2nd. So we're all very excited. We've had good news, and we're just praying that God will continue to give Israel the good news. Anyway, I have a lot more to say, but I think if people have questions, it would be nice to cover them.
There's just so many questions, Avi. Don't even know where to start.
Well, you know what? I will add something. I know that this definitely would interest you, but I think the fact that the Russians did not come to rescue Bashar al-Assad, that Bashar al-Assad had to basically run for his life to the Russians. The Iranians couldn't even get themselves organized to defend Bashar al-Assad. I think it says something because for us here in Israel, there are certain enemies, as you all know, Russia, North Korea, China, and Iran. Well, guess what? Things are being set up now for Iran to become a democratic pro-Western state. And Israel will be working with the Kurds, with the Azeris, with the Baluchis, with all these different groups in Iran. And we're hoping that we're hoping that the son of the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, will go to Iran and be the leader, have democratic elections. And you have to remember, most of the people today in Iran were born after 1979. They never knew who the Shah was. All they know is the horror of this fanatic Ayatollah regime, which is not a friend to anyone. So this is also another thing. The Iranians, the Persians have always been friends of the Jewish people, except for the last 45 years. So this is another cause for happiness here in Israel. We love the Iranian people. We know the Iranian people love us, and therefore the actions of the Israeli government are not to destroy Iran or destroy the people of Iran, but to liberate the people of Iran by destroying the atomic capabilities of the country. And hopefully we don't have to touch the oil and gas, because that'll completely ruin the Iranian economy. And people will be starving in Iran. The whole country will be finished. So listen, I'm nobody. I don't know who our allies are on the ground, boots on the ground. But I do know that there are countries like Baluchistan and Kyrgyzstan that are in agreement with Israel about having the need to remove that crazy regime. But Russia has been very greatly weakened. I'm a Sovietologist, but I did not predict the fall of the Berlin Wall. I did not predict I'm getting overwhelmed. I don't know if you know this or not. The fall of the Berlin Wall. I didn't realize that the Soviet Union would break up into the Russian Federation and all the other breakaway countries. You have to remember, before the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1989, you had 350 million Soviet citizens, 350 million. 200 million were Muslims. So when people spoke about, the Gog and Magog war, that could have been Russia, because Russia had a majority Muslim population. But then, when the Muslims got their independence, Russia today is like 100 million people. The population of Russia has shrunk. And I'm talking now about a Christian population. I mean, I know many people who are Protestants don't think that Catholics or Russian Orthodox are Christian. I'm talking about it in the general sense. I saw a great possibility many years ago of Russia being an ally. And, I went to Russia in 1994, and I did an interview in Russian on Radio Moscow. And they fell off their chairs, because I said, the Jews are not your enemies. America is not the enemy of Russia. Europe is not the enemy of Russia. The enemy of Russia is the Turks. You've been fighting the Turks for 1,000 years. And they said to me, no, they said, communist ideology is the solidarity of all the nations. I said, that's baloney. You've been fighting the Turks for 1,000 years. And guess what? The Turks have helped to destroy a pro-Russian country, Syria, And the Turks now really are in control of a very big part of Syria. And basically, the Turks stabbed the Russians in the back. So I don't think the Russians are going to be very happy about their continuing relationship with the Turks. And as I said in the Radio Moscow interview, that this is a continuation of a 1,000-year war between Islam and Russia. Now, Russia is trying to curry favor with the Muslims in Russia. To a certain extent, it succeeds, and to a major extent, you have to remember when the Russians were defeated in Afghanistan, this was a great success for Islam. So, the Russians should never forget the hatred of Islam against Christian Russia. And I'll say something else also. I think the Chinese have their eyes on territories that the Russians took from the Chinese. And I wouldn't be surprised at some stage if Russia breaks up also over this, that, certain territories in Siberia might be restored to China. China might take back territories. North Korea is getting closer to Russia, working with them, but the North Koreans also lost territory to Russia. You remember in American history, you have something called manifest destiny. Well, the Russians have manifest destiny, and they expanded to the Pacific going east. And I'll say something else also. If you're a Bible believer like you and I are, there's something in the Bible prophecy which shows that Israel has also manifest destiny. The question is it manifest destiny of the Jews alone, or will it be manifest destiny of Jews and Christians? And I say Jews and Christians. And I want you to know it's not easy for me to do that here in Israel, because there are a lot of people in Israel who do not like Christians because of a bad history of 2,000 years, and are having not an easy time convincing Jewish people that we have to work with the Christians and embrace the Christians and bring them into the land of Israel. And guess what? 6 billion, 8 million Jews outside of Israel are not enough to colonize Lebanon and Syria all the way to the Euphrates. So it's going to be an interesting time. Julani, the leader of the Turkish-backed Sunni Muslim terrorists, said, we're going to take Jerusalem and we're going to take the Kaaba and Mecca. So these people are basically supporters of a caliphate. And I've been warning many times in these Zoom meetings about Jordan and Saudi Arabia and Yemen falling to these fanatic caliphate-type Sunni Muslims. This is ISIS. And, I have to tell you, I don't know how much I can say and how far I can go because there are people in America, people in Europe who are so bought out and bought into the system of fanatic Sunni Islam. So they're happy that Iran is gone. Maybe Biden is not smart enough to be happy. I don't know if you heard President Biden yesterday. He was taking credit, for what Israel did. And he's been the major obstacle to everything that Israel is doing now. So I don't know, Laurie, if I'm answering any questions you might have wanted to ask, but that's something else I wanted to add.
Yeah, thanks. Is Syria now going to turn into basically what Afghanistan turned into when we left? Is it going to be radical and oppressive?
Yes. The question then is now, okay, that's why Israel was very, very clear about destroying the air force of Syria, destroying the rockets, destroying the chemical weapons, destroying all of the strategic capabilities of Syria. It should not fall in the hands of these Sunni Muslim terrorists. So what will happen, I do believe, is that at some stage, there will be a confrontation between Israel and Turkey. And I know that this is something that you all, when I come to your churches and your meetings, you're always asking about the evil coming down from the north. And that is Turkey. That is Turkey, and that could be indeed the Turkic republics that broke away from the Soviet Union. But you have to remember, Laurie, that the Kurds control half of Syria, and the Kurds control a quarter of Turkey, and they control a quarter to a half of Iraq, and they control the northwestern part of Iran. So I don't know. We have a tremendous potential because everyone wants a Palestinian state with 7 million Palestinians, and there are 30, 40 million Kurds who want a state. They don't have a state. They're the biggest ethnic group in the world that does not have a state, and they want to have a state. And everyone is saying, no, no, these are the colonial border lines that were drawn up after World War One. Well, to hell with that. Now the Kurds have to have a state. So it's going to mean the breakup of Syria, maybe the breakup of Iraq. So we have to watch all of these things very closely. And I think it would be great if Israel could reach the Kurds, which is very feasible at this time, have a border with the Kurds, and we will be hearing less and less Arabic and more Kurdish. And the Druze speak Arabic also, but the Druze are our brethren. The Druze are good people, and they will be good Israelis. Even if they don't become Israelis, they will have autonomy under the Israeli flag and protection. So the primary enemy is coming down from this. The Sunni terrorist enemy is coming down from Turkey. They have been very much trained by the Turks. But I think I don't want to say it'll be a piece of cake to defeat them, because don't forget, we have to settle these areas. We have to have hegemony over these territories, so sovereignty. So things are going to be constantly moving. So we'll have to watch that. Have you cooked up any questions, guys?
What is the controlling entity in Turkey? Is that Sunni, or what are the controls? Who controls Turkey?
Okay, now this is a very, very interesting and important question, Eric, and I'll tell you why. The southwest of Turkey is Shiite, Alawite, very close to Tartus and Latakia. In Turkey, I'm talking about southwestern Turkey, are not Sunnis, and they are greatly persecuted by the Sunni regime in Ankara, in Istanbul. So the southwest is Shiite, Alawite. To the east, southeastern Turkey is Kurds, a quarter of the country, and the Sunni Muslims are more to the north. So there is a great potential instability in Turkey as a result of what's happening. And if Turkey tries to go to war with Israel, don't forget, we're talking about gas and oil in Cyprus. The Turks are demanding that the world hand over Cyprus to the Turks, which means the annihilation of 500,000 Christians. And the Israeli army is training in Cyprus for the event of a war with the Turks. Don't forget, we're talking about 500,000 Christians being slaughtered. We're talking about oil and gas, and we're talking about El Al. Airlines will not be able to fly if the Turks block the air routes. So all of this is very strategic. The problem with Turkey also goes into Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary. All these countries, Serbia, all these countries have been for hundreds of years under Turkish rule. They want to go back. So I don't know. I don't want to start quoting the Bible, because God has his own plan with it. Really, none of us exactly know. But Turkey's a problem, and Turkey is a member of NATO. So it'll be interesting to see, indeed, how the NATO allies look at Turkey invading Cyprus, invading Greece. Now they invaded Syria, but everyone said, wonderful, we got rid of the Russians. Yes, you got rid of the Russians in Syria. You got rid of the Iranians. But the Israelis had to come in, and the Israelis are doing what they have to do. Good question, Eric.
Is Turkey a powerful nation?
Turkey is very powerful. The only problem is they are a giant with clay feet. The economy is not doing well. I think it's part of the megalomania of Islam that prevents them from developing Turkey as they would like to. But at this point, they are very powerful, and Israel is very, very scared of what could happen. Don't forget also, a lot of the modern weaponries of Turkey are from Russia.
Okay.
And look what the Turks did to the Russians. So the Russians, are thinking, is this somebody we want to work with?
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, I had heard, maybe I was wrong, that Turkey hated the Kurds and wanted to do away with them, and that years ago in history they did, They did slaughter a lot of them. This is what I heard.
Yes. Turkey is trying. I think there's too much bad blood for the Turks to be friendly with the Kurds. Either way, the Kurds, I think, are much closer to being friends with the West and Israel, and not with the Turks. So, like I said before, there's too much bad blood. So, things are definitely in flux in Syria now. Good question, Annette.
Thank you.
Where does Armenia stand?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. That's a very difficult question because Armenia strategically is with the Russians. Armenia strategically is with the Iranians. The enemy of Armenia is Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan is a Turkic nation allied with Israel. And they're also allied with the Turks. So the Iranians have always been complaining that Israel will attack Iran through Azerbaijan and also perhaps through Kyrgyzstan. So we are watching, there are so many variables in the equation. But Azerbaijan had a war with Armenia and defeated them because they bought their weapons from Israel. So Azerbaijan is a great ally of Israel. Armenia is pro-Russian, but the Russians lost. The Russians lost with Iran. Russia is threatening Israel with nuclear weapons if we attack Iran. Don't forget that. But the thing is, Russians are getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So I don't know where Armenia is at this time. I think, though, it was a great historic mistake for Armenia to become anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. And we love the Armenians. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Also, we have a country called Georgia, and Georgia had elections, and there's a pro-Moscow group. There is great division in Georgia, and so we don't know yet, will Georgia be pro-Russian or will it be pro-European, pro-Western? That's also something that we're watching. Everything is very much in flux. And one of the things I learned in the Israeli Army spokesman's office for 14 years, in the Middle East, you learn to expect the unexpected. So we're expecting the unexpected. What happened in Syria? Did anyone predict this? No one predicted this. I mean, maybe Netanyahu knew, but I think he did know because, it cannot be that Israel wipes out Hezbollah and then all of a sudden Syria disappears, without any explanation. I think for those people who play chess, I think that they could figure out that this is what was going to happen.
Meanwhile, what's happening in Gaza and Lebanon?
Well, Gaza is still in the process of going through the meat grinder. And unfortunately, the fanatic Islamic Sunni ideology is causing us tremendous casualties. I mean, for us, losing a few soldiers every week is tremendous casualties. but Gaza is being ground down. And we are, from what we hear in the news and the media, it's not getting better for Gaza. It's getting worse. In other words, we are not starving them. They are starving each other. Um, Things are very bad. They can't start rebuilding Gaza until Hamas is gone. Hamas doesn't really care about rebuilding Gaza. They just want to survive. So this war with Gaza has to continue until Hamas surrenders. We are demanding complete surrender. We are willing to give them money and free pass to get out of Gaza if they release our hostages. But the future of Gaza cannot be in the hands of Hamas because they will immediately work for another October 7th. So we don't want that. Regarding Hezbollah, they're Hamas on steroids. So they're crazy also. But like I said, if Iran is gone and Syria is gone, Hezbollah does not have much of a future anymore. Israel is doing all the dirty work. America under Biden is blocking us. The French are blocking us. The Europeans are blocking us. The United Nations is condemning us. But we're doing what has to be done. And so, we saw in the news here on TV where Syrians, I don't know if they were Sunni or Shiite, but they were saying, they have pictures of Netanyahu on their smartphones. And there are Syrians who are saying we should be waving the Israeli flag from on top of every home in Syria because Israel delivered us out of the hands of Bashar al-Assad. So I think that in Syria, among the Muslim population, there is a lot of goodwill now towards Israel because they know we don't kill innocent civilians. And there's a war. When you have a war, people get killed, but we're not killing innocent civilians. I think in Lebanon, it's fair to say that the Christians and the Druze and the Sunnis, the three groups other than Hezbollah, are very happy with what Israel is doing. So Lebanon, one last sentence. Lebanon cannot be resuscitated back to life until Hezbollah is neutralized. Yes, Eric.
Is Damascus close to a ruinous heap?
No. That's listen. What Israel has done in Damascus is to destroy. You see, we have this wonderful intelligence, and we know in Damascus what targets have. Damascus is a big city. We know what targets we have to hit,
right?
And it's not to destroy all of Damascus. It's to destroy certain strategic sites with chemical weapons and rockets and poisonous gas and all kinds of stuff. They're hidden in places that hopefully they're hoping Israel will not reach that, but we're going to reach it. And don't forget that the Sunnis of Syria suffered greatly under the Bashar al-Assad regime. So, like I said before, I think we're just trying to reach out to these ISIS terrorists and say, listen, don't start making the same mistake that Hezbollah and Gaza did. We don't want war. But the problem is that Allah is Satan and Islam is a satanic cult built on the destruction of the human race. So that's what matters to them. So the war is not over. By the way, Eric, we were about 40 kilometers away from Damascus. We're now 20 kilometers. 20 kilometers is 12 miles. We are 12 miles from Damascus. And we overlook Damascus from Mount Hermon. Israel is not going to waste bombs and weaponries to destroy the whole city. It's going to destroy only those places that have to be destroyed.
Well, we can all keep President Trump in deep prayer because things are getting interesting.
Well, I'm a Sovietologist. I know how the Soviets work, and I know the Democrats work. The Democrats get a lot of their behavioral patterns from the Russians. And so we have to be very careful to be aware that there is a tradition on the left working for undermining Christian or religious or nationalist tendencies in the population. But I think that the American people in this election vomited out all of this nonsense of woke and cancel culture, and I think there's in my opinion, don't forget I'm American also, and I've been in the States 35 years speaking in churches, and I see the population. I see American people are good Christian people. Unfortunately, in 2020, I believe the elections were stolen. And many Christians simply didn't show up to vote. That's how Biden got into power. So I think now the Christians have had enough. They've had enough. Sometimes you have a virus and you try not to throw up, and finally you just can't take it anymore and you throw up. So the American people threw up and got rid of the Democrat Party. Even in the Democrat Party, there are now great problems because there are people who want to follow this group or that group, and they're very divided now. I'm really hoping that Trump will restore America to its greatness and be the greatest president that I always believed he was. He's a little ornery. But to be a good president or a good prime minister in any country, you have to be on the ornery side, not a pushover. That's my take.
Agreed.
Hey, Avi, could I share an older 3-minute video of you about the Golan Heights with everybody, and then we can watch it for 3 minutes, and then you can update us on relate it to the current situation in the Golan Heights?
Is there any way I could refuse you?
Absolutely. Is that okay?
Go for it, sure.
Okay. Give me a second.
I hope we have enough bandwidth.
Quite expert in the territory, and he's going to talk to us a moment about the Golan Heights.
This is the Golan Heights, and here we have a range of mountains called the anti-Lebanon range, and this is the Lebanon range. And all the water that rains and all the snow that falls on these hills falls either in the direction of Iraq in one direction or in the direction of Israel in the Jordan River in the other direction. Now, this watershed here fills the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee supplies Israel with 1/3 of its water. So the Golan Heights, therefore, is extremely important for future water supplies for the state of Israel. On a smaller map of the Golan Heights, you can see very carefully the same map, and you can see the small tributaries and rivers which all feed the Sea of Galilee. And if this is given over to Syria in return, there is every reason to believe the Syrians will divert the waters away from Israel. And this is a great problem for Israel because we have no other water sources except for the rains. We have a map which also shows the Golan Heights. Our border with Syria today is along a ridge of volcanic hills. There's the valley of Quneitra just beneath them, and in front of that is another ridge of volcanic hills which the Syrians are controlling. And as long as we are up on these hills looking down on the valley of Quneitra, we have a superiority which cannot be beaten. We have a view into what's going on in Damascus. We have eyes and ears on Mount Hermon here, which can see all the way over to Iraq and Iran. The minute we come down off the Golan Heights, we lose our eyes and ears at Mount Hermon and on this volcanic ridge, and it's all downhill. We're talking about 16 miles. It's about a 20-minute drive. Within 16 miles, 20 minutes, you are down at the Jordan River. It's downhill all the way from these volcanic ridges. Therefore, any kind of withdrawal, the minute you've left these strategic hills, you've really left the Golan Heights. The difference being, though, that what the Syrians want all the way up to the Jordan River, which means they can take pot shots with an M16 or Carl Gustav or Kalashnikov rifle, and if they're only halfway down, they can hit us still with artillery, very medium artillery like in Bosnia, and that's a problem. So the way it is now, they cannot hit us with regular artillery, only with missiles and Scuds.
Well, Norman, that's a
So can you update us between like from that time, everything that's happened in a summary until now today, and you're talking about now the IDF has taken that?
No, we always had that since 1967. The kibbutz people in the valleys there in Israel were demanding that the Israeli army take the Golan Heights for the reasons that I said. I mean, everything exactly is the same. I just want to say personally, I miss Zola Levitt so much. I mean, I started working with Zola Levitt in 1992. So how many years is that? Zola Levitt was a great man. Anyway, so I will say another thing also. There's nothing that has to be changed there except for the fact that because of the collapse of Damascus, of the Assad regime, the Israelis have moved north and east. So we're not talking about the Golan Heights anymore. Israel has expanded. And as I said earlier in this Zoom, it means Israel is now in an active stage of Bible prophecy, where the borders are growing to the north and to the east. Regarding Lebanon, the communities in the north of Israel have demanded that Israel not withdraw to the borders of Lebanon and Israel as before, but that these communities in Lebanon that were basically Hezbollah terrorist communities have to be all ground down, and Israel's border has to be moved up. And nobody's talking about it anymore. But only this can only happen if we have peace. But we can't have peace because the people in the south of Lebanon are Hezbollah. So, we are now giving them a chance to make peace with us. They don't want to make peace. Manifest destiny. We move further north into all the way to the Litani. We have reached the Litani River 4 times already. So it's not the first time. And don't forget, it's also Bible prophecy because the city of Tyre, or in Hebrew we say Tzor, is mentioned in the Bible as the northernmost part of our borders to the north. So Tzor is north of the Litani River. The Israeli troops are there, and we ain't going nowhere until Hezbollah is completely disarmed, as it says in UN Resolution 1701 and 1759. So, we're watching very carefully what Hezbollah is doing. Hezbollah really, really owes it to themselves not to be stupid and to resume firing rockets at Israel, because next time there will be no more Hezbollah. And we're giving them air to breathe because President Biden is forcing us to give them air to breathe. No air, no more Hezbollah. So, listen, we're now looking at the Jordanian border. Our fear is not from Jordan as a country. Our fear is that Jordan might be overthrown by Iran or by ISIS terrorists, and then we'd have another front to fight on. And 70% of Jordan is Palestinian. So, we have seen very, very tremendous breakthroughs in Lebanon, in Syria, in Gaza. We're hoping we don't have to go into Jordan. And Jordan, we have protected Jordan a number of times. Our intelligence has warned the kings Hussein and Abdallah of plans which were against Jordan. Jordan, by the way, helped us intervene with the rockets coming in from Iran. They helped us shoot down rockets from Iran. So, and we're just hoping that the Egyptians also don't make a stupid mistake to attack us again, because they have the biggest army now in the Middle East, and they have no enemies. The only enemy of Egypt, according to their own perception, is Israel. And we're not an enemy of Egypt, but they have this Islamic paranoia that Israel's going to attack them. And so we've had war 5 times with Egypt. We didn't want it, and things don't look good with Egypt. So if they see Israel as strong, they'll stay out. So I don't know if I'm answering your questions, Lori, but all I can say is I miss Zola Levitt very much. I'm very proud of myself to see that little short. Anytime you find a tape like that, put it on.
That was from 1994, so it's 30 years ago.
Right. It's from the time I was working with Zola. 30 years, hard to believe. Thank you, Lori. You made my day with that. I was about to say, who's that handsome guy? He should be hired. It's just nobody ever hired me. The only one who hired me is God. I'm waiting for God to fire me. But no, he says, you got work to do. Shut up and keep marching.
I have a question regarding Israel's security system.
Yes, sir.
It boggles my mind. They know precisely where all of these individuals are. They've taken out so many people surgically. How many is Israel constantly working on security, and probably has been the past quite a few years?
Sure. Listen, you have to remember that in Lebanon, everybody hates everybody. And so our intelligence works with people, and they say, hey, this jerk is over here, take him out. This jerk is over here, and we take him out because we have the intelligence, because there are people who want us to take him out. I'll say something which is not very nice. When the white man came to the new territories, America, there were Indian tribes, Native American tribes that cooperated with the white man to fight other tribes. And in the history of Islam, the Muslims won because they used, in the case of Christianity, they used the Copts of Egypt, or Coptic Christian, to fight the Greek Orthodox. And that's how they conquered Egypt. So there are many things in history where the Muslims knew how to divide and conquer. So a lot of the intelligence information is divide and conquer information. Anyone there?
Thank you.
Say hello to Sarah. Also, say hello to Gary. I haven't heard from Gary in a long time.
I think our heads are full, Avi. There's just so much to process every day. It's happening so fast.
Amen. Totally correct. I wake up every morning, and the first thing I say, praise God for giving me another day. And I run down, put the TV on, and I'm watching and see what news broke during the night. Every night there's some other news coming out in the morning early. So, and again, you know what? I know it's changing the subject, but God bless America. I am so happy that President Trump won, or re-won. He won again. And I'm so excited. I wish I could come to the States, and I just want to get this thing with Iran finished in the next month, and then I'll seriously start considering coming back to the States. Every time I come to the States also, there's always so much going on. So good to be alive. Good to be alive at this time. Last question. Going once, going twice. I see
Hi,
Angela.
Avi.
I see Angela. The lady
Hello.
from yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Avi.
Yes.
I'm sorry I joined a bit late, so I apologize if someone has asked this already. But I was reading that Egypt, Hamas has presented the Egyptians with a list of hostages and their condition, etc. Do you think it's likely that Hamas know where the hostages are, even? And
Some of them.
yeah, some, yeah,
Because you have also another group, not Hamas, called Islamic Jihad, and we think they hold some. And then you have the mafia type families
yeah,
represent different mafia groups who may have some of them. If you remember the redheads, the Beaver
yes, the
family,
Bibas family, yeah,
supposedly they're in the hands of a family.
right,
So listen, they're worth a lot of money.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
So
just really pray so much that they are released, that they find them and get them out.
our prayer is to get them home fast as possible.
Amen.
It's not Netanyahu's fault.
No,
Uh, uh, there are even people who are saying it's the fault of the left wing in Israel and their protests in the streets of Israel that caused the price to go up for these
yeah,
hostages. So
wow.
we're waiting to see what develops.
Okay, thank you, Abby. God bless.
And don't be late next time.
I know, I'm sorry.
I'll start telling British jokes.
As long as it's not Irish, it's okay.
Yeah, okay. I got Irish jokes too. Irish jokes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think, Laurie, we've blasted everyone's brain off. My mind is blasting off with all this going on. So I'm very happy to be able to share with you.
Well, great. No telling what it'll be next week.
Yes. By the way, we're having electricity cut off tonight from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And one of the ladies here in the leadership of the community said that it's to improve the infrastructure, the net infrastructure. So I'm hoping that we'll finally get proper internet.
Oh, great.
So hopefully we'll keep our eyes on what's going on.
Great.